gentlemen, it's great to be back on stage here at the Rising Bharat Summit with some young leaders who join us now with a fresh perspective and a fresh lens on how they see India, how they see their businesses, and more importantly, how they see India's place in the global order. Let me very quickly give you a little bit about the backstory for each one of them. Lavanya Nalli, I'll start with you. Fifth generation entrepreneur of the Nalli Saris business. Lavanya has had quite an interesting journey. All the women here wearing saris are clapping for you, Lavanya, including myself. She's the first woman who decided to get into the family business and has had an interesting journey because she joined in 2005, then took a break to study. She worked at McKinsey and worked at Myntra as well before deciding to come back and steer the family business forward. Lavanya, it's great to have you here with us. Shashwat Goenka also decided to join the family business, as has now taken his group into new areas, including the FMCG business, sports, philanthropy, nutraceuticals, and plenty more. So Shashwat, it's great to have you join us. Jay Kotak also decided that he wanted to come back to India after he's finished his education in the US. He, of course, all three of them have a Harvard connection, by the way, and a McKinsey connection for Lavanya as well as Jay. Both worked at McKinsey, and Jay is now with Kotak Mahindra Bank leading the efforts on the digital banking side with 811. So Jay, thanks very much for joining us here on the show. Let me start by stirring a little bit of the nest. And Jay, I'm going to start with you. Uday Kotak recently said that heirs of family businesses are more interested in taking the easy way out, and they're running family offices as opposed to running family businesses. Do you agree?
So, thank you for having me, Shirin. Very surprising that you'd start with that question.
You were expecting that, weren't you?
I think this whole dichotomy of investor versus operator, at least where my view on this is that where India is today, I agree with what a number of people have said, that the next gen should lean towards operating. If you look at the US 100 years ago, you look at the sons and daughters of the largest industrialists, they tended to be operators. It's only now, many, many generations later, that folks veer more into the investment side in the US. So that's my view.
That's your view. So you do believe that it is time for the next gen to roll their sleeves up, quite literally, and get into running operational businesses. Shashwat, Mr. Kotak made those comments, and Harsh Goenka, your uncle, sided with him in the debate and also joined the debate by saying that absolutely sweat equity is what they should be focused on, and that's clearly not the case. How do you look at this current debate?
I think I have a different point of view, right? And I think it's not either or, and I think you can do both, right? And I think it's important that you do both. I think today, the wealth creation opportunities that are available, it becomes important to look at your family office and to see how best you can invest what's in there to grow that, right? Whether it's to incubate startups, whether it's to create businesses that can give you inordinate value. And invest in those businesses. But I think it's equally important to also be active in operational roles or in operational businesses, operations businesses as well, because that is when you really get a pulse of what is going on, whether it's the consumer, whether it's the supply side, whether it's the entire value chain that you look at, whether from manufacturing to whichever way, right? So I think it's important to look at both. And I think when you look at next generations, and three of us are sitting here, fifth generation, seventh
generation for you, and second generation for Jay, yes.
Exactly. And I think all of us are running some business or the other, while we're also looking at the family office and investing further. So I think it's about doing both and
so they don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Absolutely.
You can do both. But Lavanya, this issue of ownership and management has been discussed ad nauseum over the years, and it perhaps has to be looked at in a more nuanced way, because when family-run businesses take inheritors to run the businesses, they're accused of not bringing in professional management, they're accused of not bringing in the right talent and focused much more on inheritors. But now the question is, if you actually do the opposite, then you're being accused of not doing enough. So how do you look at this, Lavanya?
I think excellent question. The way I look at it, I think a generation before, or even just 20 years, 10 years, 20 years ago, the next gen would enter the family business, not because they wanted to, because they didn't have a choice. So I felt that it was a little bit of pressure on both sides, right? It is a testimony to our country that we have this, the kind of opportunities that we do today, that children of family businesses, professionals, anyone who is probably graduating today has so much of choice in terms of they can follow their calling and they don't have to worry about financial sustenance. So that's one that I'd say it's good that people have a choice and they can choose to become an operator in the business or not. Having said that, to the point
Lavanya, can you just hold up your mic, please? Sorry.
To the point about does it help to be an operator in your own business? Yes, I do think so. And I think there are families that have done this really well. The Murugappa group has done this beautifully. They have a leadership rotational program. Typically, these were things that you would see in large organizations like Unilever, the Tatas. If family businesses can adopt that kind of a mindset to say when we want the next generation to come in, how do we sort of make them business ready? How do we sort of have a leadership rotational program, give them the ability to sort of work their way up through exposure to multiple different functions, maybe even motivate and encourage the next generation to get some kind of expertise outside and experience outside. I think there is a very strong path to successful leadership and succession here.
Yes, it's important that you talk about this path to successful leadership as well as succession. And very often, I'm not sure enough thought is put into it until there is an eventuality that a business family or a business needs to deal with. In your case, Lavanya, no woman who had joined the family business before you, you are a fifth generation entrepreneur. Your decision to actually work outside of the family business and then take the family business forward, what was that like for you? And as you look back at your journey today, what would you say you would like to do over to ensure that it was a more smoother transition to leadership?
So looking back, I'll answer the last question first. Looking back today, I think I wouldn't change a thing. Like it's shaped me and made me what I am today. There's a deep gratitude for the platform and everything that it's provided. But I've done 2 stints in the family business. One was in 2005 when I graduated and I just joined. And India was a very different world back then. Even malls coming up was a new thing. There were no VCs, there were no consumer brands, D2C, none of that existed. In fact, retail was considered a dirty word, right? There would be people who would say, I don't want my son to work in a shop. He won't have manageable prospects. So jump cut to today in 2025 and see how much that universe has changed. When I joined, I think there was this air of, she's doing something till she gets married. So how much harm can she do? We'll fix it.
How much harm can she do? We'll fix it. Yes. That was what you had to deal with.
So but the benefit of that, and it's a matter of perspective, you can get away with mistakes because you're not being scrutinized, right? My brother, on the other hand, who's 5 years younger than I am, when he joined the business, same age, same level of inexperience, was scrutinized, right? Because there is a weight of expectation on them. So I think then, having gone to Harvard, having gone to McKinsey, having gone to Myntra, then I came back, and then I felt what he felt, right? So I think it's a matter of perspective. Having said that, I do believe that having a very thoughtful, intentional sort of leadership program, even for heirs in the business, whether it's external, professional, or heirs, is just a no regrets move, right? Because it's your company. You want to set it up for success. You want to set it up for longevity. Who would you invest in if not the next gen?
Absolutely. You have skin in the business, so to speak, quite literally. But it's interesting that you point out that the baggage of expectation was automatically on your brother and not on you. And you had to go through several hoops to be able to prove your mettle. But Shashwat, retail clearly is not a bad word for you. So let's talk about this new India and the new ways of looking at business. And let's start by talking to you. You've inherited this business. You're a 7th generation entrepreneur. But as you look at India today, why did you feel that these are the new areas you want to branch out to? Why did you feel FMCG was a play you wanted to bet on, or retail was a play that you wanted to bet on? And clearly it didn't impact your marriage prospects.
I think when you look at just the macroeconomic scenario of India and, the demography of India, 70% of India today is under the age of 34. And 10 years ago, when I started working, they were under the age of 24, right? And we were trying to size that market and see they are going to become the spenders of tomorrow, the earners of tomorrow. And therefore, there is a huge consumer tailwind in a way that India's demographic allowed it to have, right? And that was what we wanted to capitalize on when we looked at our consumer businesses. So whether it was retail or whether it was FMCG, right? From 2Yum to our personal care ventures, naturally within, to even our nutraceutical venture as well. And I think consumerism is only growing. And I think when you look at the Gen Zs who are coming into the consumption economy as they grow older, you know, there is a lot of instant gratification that they want. The concept of accumulation or saving is not something that is inherent to them. They've, like we were talking before this, they've grown up in a world of abundance where they've always gotten whatever they wanted. They've not seen scarcity to the extent our forefathers may have seen, right? And so therefore, everything is an instant gratification that they want. They want it here, they want it now. And that just lends very well to how consumption works. And I think that's really what we wanted to capitalize on.
Well, speaking of instant gratification, we're also living in an era of 10-minute delivery. And that has changed the fulfillment aspiration for every sector at this point in time. How are you dealing with that?
Absolutely, it has. And to be fair, as, say, traditional grocery retailers in that sense, right, we did feel the brunt of it. But having said that, we have worked out our own model, and it's called Jiffy. And we do have our own quick commerce delivery option now. But what we've done is we've done it in a manner where with every order, we are actually making money. We're not losing money.